Arlo, why are we spending time on this outdated model? It's not relevant anymore.
Ella, it's not about being scientifically up to date. The traditional worldview is the foundation of astrology. Without it, we miss the deeper symbolic connections that make astrology work.
That sounds like an excuse to cling to old ideas. Why should we take something seriously when we know it's not scientifically accurate?
Because understanding how the ancients saw the cosmos helps us decode their methods. Astrology wasn't built in a vacuum. It grew from their worldview. Trust me, it's essential for interpreting charts.
Fine, I'll keep an open mind. But if this doesn't make sense soon, I'm going to challenge everything you say.
Hello and welcome to the second episode of our series on learning traditional astrology. Today, we're delving into the traditional worldview, specifically the Ptolemaic model of the universe. Ella and Cherry, are you ready for an exciting day?
Exciting? Let's call it intriguing. I went through Ptolemy's introduction last night like you suggested, but I still don't see why we need to start here. Isn't this model scientifically debunked?
Ah, Ella, I expected this skepticism from you. Coming from a modern astrology background, it's natural to feel this way. But trust me, understanding the Ptolemaic worldview is essential to grasping the roots of astrology. You have to learn it, apply it, and then see the results for yourself before you pass judgment.
Fine, I'll play along. But if this turns into a lecture on why the Earth doesn't move, I'm walking out.
Deal. Now let's get started. Cherry, could you read an excerpt from Ptolemy's Tetrabiblos that relates to today's topic?
Of course. Here is the passage. Of the means of prediction through astronomy, Osiris, two are the most important and valid. 1, which is first both in order and in effectiveness, is that whereby we apprehend the aspects of the movements of sun, moon, and stars in relation to each other and to the earth, as they occur from time to time. The second is that in which by means of the natural character of these aspects themselves we investigate the changes which they bring about in that which they surround.
Beautifully read, Cherry. The essence of Ptolemy's statement is simple: as above, so below. By observing the movements of the planets in relation to each other and the Earth, we can begin to understand events and patterns here below.
I see the logic, but it still feels poetic rather than practical. Anyway, I did read about the Ptolemaic model. Want me to explain what I learned?
Absolutely. I'm curious to hear your take on it.
The Ptolemaic model, also called the geocentric model, places the Earth at the center of the cosmos. Surrounding it are 7 planetary spheres: the Moon, Mercury, Venus, the Sun, Mars, Jupiter, and Saturn, arranged based on their apparent speed. Beyond these spheres is the firmament, where the fixed stars reside. This is what we see as the constellations in the night sky. Enclosing everything is the 9th sphere, the primum mobile, which imparts the primary rotation of the heavens. It was considered the most divine and perfect sphere.
That was a solid summary, Ella. But I notice you skipped over the philosophical significance. The ancients saw this model as more than a mechanical system. It was a reflection of cosmic harmony.
Fair, but harmony or not, it's still flawed. Even the epicycles used to explain retrograde motion seem overly complicated.
Ah, the infamous retrograde motion. Ella, why don't you explain how the Ptolemaic model accounts for it?
Sure. The fixed stars were thought to be more divine than the planets because their movements were perfectly circular and consistent. The planets, however, appeared to move irregularly at times, even going backward, retrograde motion. To explain this, the Ptolemaic model added smaller nested circles called epicycles to the planetary spheres. It's an elaborate workaround for something we now understand as a result of planetary orbits around the Sun.
And yet, despite its flaws, this model formed the backbone of astrology for centuries. The geocentric worldview may be outdated in astronomy, but its symbolic structure is fundamental to understanding how traditional astrology works.
I'm still skeptical, but I'll admit it's fascinating. Let's keep going and see where this leads.
Good to hear, Ella. Next, we'll shift from Ptolemy to Aristotle to explore the primary qualities and the 4 elements. Ready to continue?
We're ready.
Cherry, let's start simple. What do you know about the 4 primary qualities as taught by Aristotle?
The 4 primary qualities identified in Aristotle's teachings are hot, cold, dry, and moist. These qualities form the basis for understanding the natural world in his framework.
Excellent. Now, How do these qualities relate to the four elements?
The Earth was thought to consist of four elements, each defined by two primary qualities: fire, hot and dry; earth, cold and dry; air, hot and moist; and water, cold and moist. The heaviest element, earth, was placed at the center, surrounded by water in the form of oceans and rivers. Above that was air, forming the atmosphere, and beyond that, fire in the sphere of the heavens. These elements were believed to have tendencies. Earth and water naturally sink to the center, while air and fire rise and spread outward.
Spot on, Cherry. You've really nailed the concept. You're a lifesaver today.
Hold on, Arlo. I don't see how this connects to astrology. Hot, cold, dry, moist. What do these abstract qualities have to do with reading a birth chart?
Patience, Ella. Step by step, remember? The primary qualities and elements form the philosophical backbone of astrology. They help us understand the temperament of planets, signs, and even people.
It still feels disconnected. Why does everything need to be explained through these four elements? Isn't it a bit simplistic for something as complex as human life?
Simplistic? Ella. The beauty lies in its elegance. These qualities and elements are like the building blocks of nature. They interact, transform, and create the diversity we see around us. Without understanding this, you're missing the essence of how traditional astrology interprets life.
All right, fine. Let's hear Cherry's summary before I decide if this elegance convinces me.
Cherry, remind us of the elemental qualities.
Certainly, Arlo. Earth is cold and dry. Water is cold and moist. Air is hot and moist. Fire is hot and dry.
Exactly. Now, here's the crucial part. The elements interact with one another, constantly transforming and decaying. Everything on Earth is made up of these four elements in varying proportions. This constant state of change is what drives the dynamics of life, and astrology reflects this interaction in the heavens and on Earth.
So, what you're saying is that astrology works because everything on Earth is some mix of these elements? That's a big leap, Arlo.
It's not a leap, Ella. It's a framework. You'll see how it fits together as we connect it to the traditional worldview. This step is crucial, even if it feels abstract right now.
Fine, I'll stick with it for now. But if this turns into a convoluted history lesson with no practical application, I'm not going to let it slide.
Challenge accepted. Next, we'll explore the traditional worldview and bring all of this together. Trust me, Ella, it'll start to click.
It had better. I'm holding you to that.
So, Ella, did you manage to read the Elizabethan world picture? It's essential for understanding the traditional worldview.
I did read it, Arlo, and so did Cherry. But honestly, I found it dry. All those metaphors and lofty ideas just didn't connect with me. It feels like someone was trying to poetically justify outdated notions.
Dry? Outdated? Ella, this book is a masterpiece. It's not about modern relevance. It's about understanding how people once viewed the universe. If you dismiss it, you'll miss the richness it brings to astrology.
Richness? It feels like an elaborate exercise in imagination. The whole chain of being idea sounds like a way to enforce hierarchies. How does any of this help us in practical astrology?
Ah, Ella, you're jumping to conclusions again. The chain of being isn't about enforcing hierarchies. It's about understanding interconnectedness and purpose in creation. Let's see if Cherry can bring some clarity. Cherry, can you summarize the chain of being for us?
Certainly. The chain of being reflects the Elizabethan belief in a divinely ordered universe, where every element of creation, no matter how small, serves a purpose. From the lowly stone to the lion among beasts, and ultimately to God among angels, everything has its place in a grand hierarchy.
So, basically, it's saying that even a rock is meaningful because someone decided it fits into this chain? That seems convenient.
Not convenient, symbolic. It's about seeing the cosmos as a unified whole, where nothing is random or wasted. Even the simplest parts of nature, like stones, have qualities that surpass others, durability, for example. And this framework isn't just philosophy. It influenced Elizabethan art, literature, and yes, astrology.
All right, I'll give it that much. It's an interesting way to think about the world. What's next?
Next, let's talk about the stars and fortune. Cherry, would you summarize that for us?
Certainly. The stars were seen as intermediaries between God's eternal order and the mutable world below the moon. Their movements across the zodiac influenced changes on Earth, from weather to human fortunes. The 12 zodiac signs and planetary motions were believed to create specific configurations that shaped events in the sublunary realm.
So, basically, the stars cause the ups and downs of life?
Exactly. The Elizabethans saw these influences as part of a grand design. Fortune, though unpredictable, was viewed as a tool for teaching and refining humanity, connecting celestial order to earthly experience.
That's right. It's about seeing the cosmos as an interconnected system where celestial movements reflect earthly conditions. Ready to explore the next concept?
Let's keep going. Maybe it'll start to click as we go.
Cherry, let's move on. Talk us through the elements as described in the book.
Certainly. The Elizabethan worldview saw the elements, earth, water, air, and fire, as the building blocks of all matter. Each was defined by a combination of primary qualities, cold and dry for earth, cold and moist for water, hot and moist for air, and hot and dry for fire. While these qualities are incorporeal, their effects on matter were observable and influenced by the stars.
Wait, haven't we already talked about the elements? Besides, Aristotle's philosophy on this feels like a mix of wild guesses and poetic imagery. How does this help us today?
It's not guesswork, Ella. The elements explain the observable world, from natural phenomena to human health. They're symbolic, yes, but they hold deep meaning.
Symbolic meaning is nice for poetry, but does it really explain anything? How does saying fire is hot and dry help us understand anything beyond fire being, well, hot and dry?
The elements go beyond their basic qualities. They're hierarchical. Earth is the heaviest and forms the center of the universe, followed by water, air, and the noble fire, which transitions to the celestial realms. Their interplay explains change and transformation, whether in nature or human affairs.
Hierarchical? So we're back to ranking things. I'm struggling to see how this is relevant to astrology.
Ella, think of it this way. The elements are always in flux and conflict. Fire opposes water, but air mediates between them. This balance, or imbalance, creates everything we see in the world. In astrology, these elemental interactions reflect personality traits, health, and even fate. It's all connected.
So, we're just a mix of these elements fighting it out inside us? That sounds chaotic, not harmonious.
Chaos is an aspect of mutability beneath the moon. Perfect balance among the elements leads to durability, like in gold or diamonds, while imbalance creates temporary or corruptible states, such as illness or emotional instability. This interplay was foundational to Elizabethan alchemy and literature.
Alchemy? Now we're throwing in turning lead into gold? Arlo, this is getting more convoluted by the minute.
Stay with me, Ella. It's not about turning lead into gold. It's about the pursuit of perfection, both in matter and in ourselves. Speaking of perfection, Cherry, tell us about the microcosm and the macrocosm. That might help Ella connect the dots.
In the Elizabethan worldview, humanity occupied a unique position in the chain of being, bridging matter and spirit. Man was seen as a microcosm, a smaller reflection of the macrocosm, or universe. The human body mirrored cosmic order, the head corresponded to the highest heavens, the heart to the sun, and so on.
Let me guess. Stormy passions in people are like cosmic storms or earthquakes, right?
Correct. Such metaphors were not only poetic but also literal in Elizabethan thought. The heavens' precise harmony was a moral example. Humans were expected to govern their inner world with the same order and balance seen in the cosmos.
Okay, I'll admit the idea of the universe reflecting human life is intriguing. But how do you expect me to keep all this straight? Elements, chains, microcosms, it's a lot.
It is, but understanding this worldview gives depth to astrology. Once you see how it all fits together, it'll make perfect sense. Ready to continue?
I'm ready, but you owe me a straightforward explanation, Arlo.
Alright, let me simplify this. The moon marks the boundary between the perfect, immutable heavens and the imperfect, ever-changing earth below. Everything on earth, including us, is subject to change. But there's a rhythm to this transformation, guided by the orderly motion of the celestial bodies. This connection is the essence of astrology, the study of how the stars and planets influence the fate of things on Earth.
Okay, I hear you, but it still feels a bit idealistic. The idea that everything operates on some grand rhythm is nice, but doesn't it gloss over how messy life actually is?
Messy? Of course life seems messy on the surface, Ella, but astrology isn't about ignoring the chaos. it's about finding the patterns within it. This belief in divine order has been the foundation of astrology since Hellenistic times and was revitalized during the Renaissance with texts like Ptolemy's Tetrabiblos.
Sure, but isn't it convenient to say everything follows a divine plan? That feels more philosophical than practical. How do we bridge that gap?
By understanding the framework, the Renaissance worldview revolved around a universal chain of being, stretching from God's throne to the smallest pebble. Everything, no matter how insignificant, has a role in maintaining cosmic order. Once you see this interconnectedness, astrology becomes practical. It's a tool to interpret those patterns.
All right, I can see the appeal, but you're asking me to accept a lot here. I guess I'll need to dive deeper to really connect the dots.
Exactly. You don't have to believe it all at once. Immerse yourself in the philosophy and let the patterns reveal themselves. That's how you grow as an astrologer.
You're persistent. I'll give you that. Fine. I'll keep this model in mind as I wade deeper into traditional astrology. But I'm reserving the right to challenge you later.
Fair enough. And for the record, your questions always make these discussions richer.
Now you're just buttering me up. Let's wrap this up before you get too carried away. Thanks for joining us today. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to check out our first video where we introduce the key components of astrology. Subscribe to our channel and join me on this journey into traditional astrology. Until next time, bye.